The last 24 hours has been a crash course for anyone new to cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin down $7,500, that's 6.1% in the last day. However, we are seeing altcoins begin to pop off. In some cases, the big names like ETH and SUI have hit fresh highs. ETH this time at 3,100. So we've got a lot to cover in today's video, mostly on the altcoins and the Bitcoin cycle, along with the traditional markets, as we always do cover here on the channel, being your home of macro cycle analysis. So get your drinks ready, your coffees, your teas. Let's get started. First things first, the quote of the day: time is more important than price. When time is up, price will reverse. This is from W.D. Gann. So when time is up, price will reverse. And in this case, we saw a short-term time frame come to a T, and that's when price reversed in the short term. However, the long term is still intact. When we look at the short term here, we have the tops to the previous tops in the market. This is nearly 6 months ago that we saw the all-time high President Trump inauguration, crypto Bitcoin president, of course. Markets popped off and then closed much, much lower that day, giving us a weak sign. That also came in at the 7-year resistance level. That was marked from 2017 to 2021, and it hit dead on those prices in 2024, and also 2025. That's December and January, respectively. And of course, from that point, we had that 30% correction. And now the market has come back and broken above that level and retested that line almost to the dollar. And that's why I reflected on that again in today's video, because this breakout point above all of those previous tops, this 7-year resistance level, could be one of the big moves in the cycle. When markets typically break out of very key resistance levels, things that have held the price, suppressed the price down for a long time, and if it is a genuine break, which I think we'll find out towards the end of this week, if we get a couple of weeks closes, and then the end of the month, giving us a more macro time frame here, a macro signal. When we find that out, that could be the next indicator for things to go even wilder. Now, our daily videos cover many detailed charts, data, indicators, and our forte, the cycle analysis, to help guide us through the investment cycle. So if you're a brand new subscriber to the channel, then I highly encourage you to get our weekly reports on Bitcoin, altcoins, and the economy, including the real estate cycle. They're easy to read in under 5 minutes each, making them extremely digestible for all investor levels. There are 3 reports coming your way starting your week from Tuesday. It'll get you up to speed on how we forecast the markets and how we've been able to profit during uncertain times leading into and out of the cycle peak. It's completely free, so subscribe today using the link in the top of the video description and you'll receive your first report shortly. Now, of course, Bitcoin has been pushing higher here. We had 6 days to the upside. We saw a 6-month repeating time frame there, hitting tops to tops. This time, however, I think it's going to be much shorter lived. Even if we do come down a little further, I don't think it's at the point of something like January. We haven't seen the same sort of build up and push higher along the same time frames and same price levels. We went from 50,000 to 100 and call it $10,000. So a $60,000 move. This time we're still short of that, from 75 to 123. So there's still a little bit of juice left in the tank before we see some sort of steadier, healthier market consolidation. And note that I'm not using the terms of crashes or end of cycle or top or anything like that. But as the markets do push higher, they will have more corrections. And we're seeing very, very similar things to what happens in each of the cycles as it breaks out of fresh high prices, especially towards, let's call it the last quarters of the game. You generally see cleaner, faster trends to the upside. 2021 was a good example of this. As it breaks higher, there's barely a turn in the trend. And that's what I'm looking out for this time. You can see we see the market push higher, 1-day corrections up. And if you're looking at red days, yes, you could call that a correction, but I'm looking for breakdowns of the previous day's low. So here, there was only 1 day that broke the previous day's low, and then it shot higher. Another higher day. Here, one day that broke the previous day's low. So something that you can measure. If you can measure it, it's going to be much easier for you to identify what's happening next, as opposed to just running around from headline to headline. Here, market's still up, and we get 1 day correction. The market pushes higher, and then things change. That is a change. And we saw this with Ethereum leading into the tops as well. So I'll get to that in a moment, but just to identify that the moves can be pretty hard and fast. 2017, another fantastic example, as the market ran into that all-time high of $20,000. The moves that corrected the market were barely a day. There was a couple of days here. Big move up, this wild swing. I think that's something that we have to look out for in this cycle. 25% in a day. That's the swing, 25% in a day. So just preparing us for how these things often, but not always, but often come to an end. Very, very wild swings. And this, if that happens, we better start looking for exits. You can see 31%, but this is over the course of a day, 24 hours, it swings 30%. That's a little bit crazy within one day. Finally get to the peaks and crashes. But I got another big signal that many of you on the channel would have noticed. So like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now the other data for today, the fear and greed index is at 70. Obviously we saw that day down from Bitcoin. So this is, in my books, a good thing. It's getting a cool off here for the sentiment. We don't want that sentiment to build up and become a pressure chamber for extreme greed too early. And so far, so good. Greed, 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 just keeping the lid on things for the time being. But we're seeing other things change in altcoins. You know, a lot of these major ones, as we've looked at with the strong altcoins and the market caps, whether we're beginning to break out into the stronger sections of their resistance and support levels. So the exchange volume here is now also building up. It's at $54 billion. That's a good thing. We're starting to see some energy come back into the market like we saw last year. This was the build up through the lows in 30s and 40s. And then we got a little breakout here at 41, bit of a pullback before we saw this big, big, big move. So ideally, this happens a little bit more progressively as opposed to just a big explosion. Big explosions typically end very quickly. So if this can continue to consolidate and grow, breaking above highs at 60 billion and then slowly above 70 billion, we should see a longer move. If things happen quickly, then it'll be a shorter move. Now we've got the liquidations also keeping a lid on things. Last 24 hours was over $500 million being wrecked, and that was on the long side this time. So the longs were getting liquidated, shorts not as much. Day before when Bitcoin went to a new all-time high, it was the shorts getting liquidated. So we're just keeping a lid on things here. So things are still looking pretty good, obviously in my opinion. The sentiment and the liquidations, just flushing out all of the stupidity at both ends of the scale. Now, eventually it won't get flushed out, and that's where you see things go rocketing straight up. But for now, things are still looking, according to the data at least, things are still looking on track. Google Trends, Bitcoin has also shot up here, but this is only on 90 days. Remember, I'll expand it out and you'll see the difference. 90 days Bitcoin interest has peaked for now. And for the crypto search term, it is climbing. So I think that's why we're starting to see a little bit more interest in cryptocurrencies as well as the rest of the data we've seen there. With the 12 months, we're not at extreme levels yet for Bitcoin. It's climbing. It's what we want to see. Breaking previous highs. The reading here is 53. So the search volume is increasing. It is a good sign here, and it's not getting to extreme levels yet, especially for the last 12 months. And for 5 years, we're just breaking out of some of the previous lows here. So it can go a lot further. It can be searched a hell of a lot more than what it currently is. And crypto also now, finally, after many, many, many weeks of just declining, it's also starting to climb higher as well. So many good signs across the board there for cryptocurrencies. Speaking of which, Ethereum, the big player today, obviously others have climbed higher than ETH, but ETH being one of the largest, the largest altcoin, a lot of interest playing there. And if you are interested in further diving into more reports that we have produced here, TIA Crypto, link in the top of the video description. You would have received your economic report yesterday, another report coming out today, and another one tomorrow. So be sure to check those out. And you'll also get a free Discord that you can check out all of the trading results from our traders over the years. If you want to be a part of that, that is TIA Premium. Learn how to trade. You can see all the positions here live and what they are doing to keep themselves on the right side of the market. Now, there's all honesty in there. They also put some of their losses, because at the end of the day, no one wins 100% of the time. Lots and lots of trades here. Super happy with the performance. So you can review the years and years of trades that our traders have been going through to get to where they are now. ETH on the short term has broken $3,100. So my level was 2,900. It's done that. It's come back and tested that back on the 12th of July. You can see the low was 2,900 and it has since pushed even higher, sitting 3,100 above the previous highs, above the resistance level. So it's putting itself in a pretty reasonable position now to consolidate in a stronger position of the market. That's looking at the short term. What I'm interested in is the longer term. How much further does this have to go? Just looking at probabilities. And can it go a lot further? So we have time and we have price. Remember the first quote I mentioned at the beginning of the video, time is more important than price. Whenever time is up, it's the end of the game. It doesn't matter how much more people try to push the price, doesn't matter how much more the president does, doesn't matter how much more anything does. When time is up, it's over. It's dead over. So we have more time. That's what I can see from this chart here. And we have multiple different cycles. Let's just start with the closest one to the markets. We've obviously done daily, but let's look at the monthly now. In terms of the monthly for ETH, looking at swings here. This one here I've just turned on is your Gann Swing Pro. If you do have it, links to this in the video description if you don't, but if you do have it, you can check the settings and turn on the 1 week bar count and show this data here, show swing data down to 0. Now, if you want to reduce some of the noise, you can jump it up to about 3, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you guys how many swings ETH typically does in a monthly swing and what happens towards the peak of the move. So I have two significant signals here, one in the long term, one in the short term, which we've used already on the channel. I mean, we can go back to the March 2024 top that we talked about in real time, the December 2024 top as well in real time as things were breaking down, yet the market was extremely bullish. And I have a fantastic quote coming up on that extreme bullishness, which involves Michael Saylor and what I think is going to happen towards the peak. So if you want to stick around for that rant, please do so. This looks at the number of months in a row for a swing. We're looking at swings here, not like colors or anything like that. Something unique to Gann analysis that I don't see anyone else online talk about. And it's been done for over 100 years. It's been working very, very well. So I have no reason to doubt it now. Looking at the swings to the upside, the more months we go in a row without any breakdown of the previous month's low, that suggests that we're running into a top. Now you can see the number here is 3. Now I'm only looking at the larger numbers because prior to this move, ETH from the cycle lows done 2 months up, 2 months down, 1 month up. That all happened in the same month, so it counts it as a 0. Start the count again. 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 5. That's interesting. 2, 0, 3, 4, 4, 3. Okay, so the interesting ones we're looking at here are this how long the streaks can last for before we get to a top. We have 3. Previously in this cycle, it's done 5 months, which led to a top. And then there was another very significant signal after that. But remember, this was a time when, that was March 2024. Things were going ballistic. If you're just joining cryptocurrency now, fantastic. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel, because these are the signals that we talk about in real time on the channel to help us identify where tops could be coming in. And at that time, it was suggesting that there could be a top here, even though the sentiment was extremely greedy and it seemed stupid. It didn't seem logical that we could be calling for a top at that point. Now, a similar thing came up here in December 2024 as well. We got 4 months up, but then another signal occurred there. So 5 and 4 this cycle. We're at 3 so far. Last cycle in the bull market, you had 1 month. 4, we're looking at upswings now, just leading into these peaks. 1, 4, 2, 6, 8, and 5. So we had a 6, an 8, and a 5. They're the interesting ones here. How many times does it happen? This time, 50% of the time you had more than 5 in a row. So 5 monthly bars in a row. Now, this was underneath the all-time high, and it was about halfway through the cycle. So I'm going to disregard that right now, but still note that we could get to 6. We have 8 and 5. So that's 8 months in a row, got to a significant peak, and then basically flushed. Huge, huge, huge flush out of the market. Sure, it went higher, but not for long, and then that was the end. So the way I look at it is, would I have cared if I sold somewhere around here, knowing that the market really didn't go that much higher? Well, in reflection, in hindsight, no. But in real time, that's where the emotions get you, because you think, why did I sell here at 3,600 when it went to 48? You're never going to pick the top. Like, we're never going to pick the top. As long as you're making profits, you can get some breakout trades and make some significant profit. That's what you're here for. Cycle before that, this is when ETH was first altcoin, well, like it was its first cycle as a very significant altcoin. It boomed from a few bucks, few cents actually, all the way up to $1,400. 5 months and 7 months. So in that period, 5 months again, had a very significant correction. That was huge, huge correction, 97%. And then 7 months. Okay, so we have a few ideas here. 5, 7, 8, 5, 5, 4. We're at 3. So historically, ETH has done 5s before. We've done a 5 this cycle. We can still do another 5. And then it becomes much more rare for it to do one of these big blow-off moves. And if this is the blow-off move for ETH now, as we're running out of time in the overall cycle, maybe the cycle ends in late Q3 or Q4. We've talked maybe in Q1, which really, from now, if it was to be January, February, that's still only 6 or so months. Add 6 to 3 months if this thing went straight up, then it pretty much lines up with these areas here, 7 and 8. So this would be the largest one if that happened. But let's not go with the smallest probabilities. Let's go with something that's happened before, and if it goes further, so be it. That's just the name of the game. We look at 4 and 5 months. 4 months would take us to August, so a top in August. Yes, we could get a reversal, pause, and then keep going for another 4 or 5 months because it's done it before. That is also possible. But looking at where we currently stand with the momentum that's behind the market, as we'll have a look at in just a moment, even if months 4 came back down, as long as it doesn't break the previous month, then you're still in the same swing. 5 months to the upside. Now you're looking at less probabilities. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times that's happened in the entire history of Ethereum. 5 months would take us through to September. 6 months in a row would be October. 7 months November, 8 months December. And so these large booms, if it's going to be the large boom where the very significant amount of the gains are made, if not the biggest gains of the entire cycle, in this case for Ethereum, these are the times to try and hang on. And I'm watching the lows of the previous month. So look at this. You got 7 months back here. No lows of the previous month were broken until you get to the top. Then it's broken, game over. 8 months, huge move to the top, huge wild swing. I'm not saying it's easy. That's definitely not easy to hang in. But do you need to hang in if the end is coming pretty soon after that? Now, I think running into a peak, should it be the big blow-off move that takes out these previous tops, we'll have a couple of other signals that could help us along the way that would suggest that the move is going to get stronger. Ideally, we break through these tops and we don't pause too long at $38 to $4,100. That's a big one there, and this downtrend. So along with that, we have the ETH BTC chart, which is broken out to a new fresh 134-day top. Now, if this keeps going, we're looking for an overbalance in price to the upside. Do we get bigger moves to the upside than we've seen in the entire downtrend? This chart tells you, is Ethereum now outpacing Bitcoin? We want to see Ethereum outpacing Bitcoin. Otherwise, why hold Ethereum? The same thing goes for any other altcoin. If they're not doing bigger gains than BTC overall, then what is the point of holding them? So at the moment, ETH is climbing higher, and it's on the verge of breaking some of the previous rallies. So the time and price. So these previous rallies were this much over this period of time. We've obviously gone longer in time because this is the time through here. As I relate back to legendary trader WD Gann, time is more important than price. Price is important, but time is more important. So we have longer in time here, meaning there are more people stepping up to buy ETH for a longer period of time. So the pockets are getting deeper here. So we've almost reached this target, just a few pips off. I dare say we'll get there. And then we look for the next largest rallies in the decline. So here is the massive, massive decline. Here are the largest rallies. And now we look for the target. The target is somewhere around 3.2%, or if you want to call it in ETH BTC terms, 0.032. So that could let us know that we have further to go on the upside. If we start to stall at these levels, that is a weakness, and that would suggest that we might be coming up to some sort of weak period for ETH. If it starts to stall, maybe we only get the 3 or 4 months up, and then we have a pullback and start to get a grind around in this support and resistance triangle pattern here on the long term, right? That's not the greatest thing. We need a breakout to the upside rather than a breakdown, obviously, to the downside. So we've got a couple of signals there as well. We need to see ETH BTC overbalance any of the previous rallies that it has done. Otherwise, if it gets to those levels, in this case 0.032, it's only doing what it has done before already in the entire cycle. It's just rallying the same as it's done for the last 3 years. So it rallies and then declines, rallies and then declines. Everyone gets excited and then declines. This time, we do have a lot more time on our hands building up at this point. So if we do get to those levels, it's going to be a pretty decent thing, good sign of strength here for ETH. Now, I did say I'll give you another signal for a top. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel if you remember this from the peaks. We did this with Bitcoin. Here's my Bitcoin chart. There's a signal there for a top. And we go to the next one, which was in 2021. We had one in April of 2021. 1, 2, 3 days down from a high, from a very significant top. And then we had it again in 2024 as well. There is March, and we did it on the channel. You can go back and check all the videos. 1, 2, 3. So we had 3 days down from a very significant top. And then we did it again on the channel in December right here. 1, 2, 3 days down. Don't worry about the colors of the bars. You're just looking at lower highs, lower lows. So I get to ETH. We hit a new fresh high in December, and then we have 3 days down. I want to zoom right in here. 1, 2, 3. We even went further and had a 4th day down. Yeah, I know it's green, but look at the tops and look at the bottoms. Lower highs, lower lows. Even though the market rallied back up, this is suggesting it's probably weak. It's probably getting weak. We also had it back here. 1, 2, 3, as I was just checking. But the market went slightly higher by a few cents. Top to top, $12.88, 0.3%. So it warned us once, gave us a double top, warned us twice. And this is over the span of 14 days, so over 2 weeks. It's giving us opportunities here. The signal started right there, so call it 11 days, 10 or 11 days, gave us a signal, then gave us a chance. The market's rallying back up. It crashed again, broke the swing lows, and it broke this swing low as well. And then it was basically all over from there. So ETH started to really, really get hit hard, fall all the way down to $1,385. Now it happened prior to that. This was in March 2024. You can see the 3 days down. We've got a new fresh high, first high that we've seen in a very, very long time, or the highest price we'd seen since the cycle top back in 2021. And then we had 1, 2, 3 days down. This one here doesn't count. You didn't have a lower low. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. From a very, very, very significant high point, rallied down, broke swing lows, broke significant lows, ran back up, tried to get back to those highs, put in a lower top. That's what lower tops are. And then broke the swing low again, broke the next, this swing low was broken here. So the market gives us multiple signals over the time, but during this time, it is super difficult. So I'm not saying this that it's the easiest thing in the world, even though the signal is right there, and we talk about it at the time. During those times, the market is very frothy. It just says there's no chance of it going down. It's impossible it's going to go down. And I suspect that will happen again. So we've looked at time, we looked at price, we looked at signals. These are bar pattern signals. So this is like form reading a market. I used to call it ticker, the tape, so tape reading. So I think we'll probably get something similar to this. And we have the swing chart that, where's my favorite trader here? Gann. Gann came up with this swing chart over 100 years ago, over 120 years ago. So lots of very important signals that we can watch running into these peaks. For now, we've got more upside. So I know I've talked at length about looking for signals for it to go down, but I think that's important, especially when the market is running up. A couple of price targets to the upside that we can now blend in with the rest of our analysis, looking at time and what's going on in the market. You know, we looked at Bitcoin, the data there, and I'll have a look at a few more charts. So putting this all together, essentially, $3,600. So $3,600 also comes in reasonably close to the 3,500 level, which there was some previous resistance and support. So basically a support and resistance flip there. And 36 is slightly above it, which is this range projected off the low. And then if this thing is to balloon and get even bigger, we're going to take out all of these tops. That's $4,300. It's not there yet. We need to see how things respond to these mid $3,000 levels for the reasons I've just given there. Plus we have the overhead resistance coming in very close to that level. So lots would be going on once ETH gets to that point, 43, and then we can start to look at some of the other big numbers that will be getting thrown around. I've already seen $10,000 being thrown around. That is a long way away, up at 500 times the current range that we've just done. $11,000 is 6 times the range that we've just done. So it's 6 times this projected off that low to get to that $11,000. You can see how crazy things have got to get. And it's very possible that they do, especially if they break through this triple top. Because as we know, there's another signal there. The 4th time breakout could be very, very big here for ETH if it is able to get through that $4,100. Can it do it? I think the USDT dominance chart will give us a little insight to that. I think a breakdown of 3.7% is a very good chance that ETH could get to those levels. Obviously, no one knows for sure, but this has really held the market up for this entire cycle. So the moment really doing its best to break free of 4.4. That was the previous low here, previous lows there, previous resistance here. And if it can get to those levels, break down, that's going to be more money flowing out of stablecoins into crypto. Now, the total crypto market cap is also doing good things, breaking to new fresh highs, even if it is just by a few bucks to the top here, and then retesting the previous highs. So that's a nice thing to see there. Basically, the breakouts and the checks. The market is checking itself. What is the old saying? When you don't check yourself, you're going to wreck yourself. That's exactly what happens in the market. When it doesn't check itself, come back and check to see, is there support still at these levels? That's when it gets wrecked. You pump up, everyone thinks they're absolutely rich, but as it comes back to check those levels, that's where everyone gets absolutely destroyed. And I showed you that with ETH back in 2017 in terms of a chart pattern. It happens time and time again. So we are into this wave 5 of 5. It's another reason why I think there's still bigger things to be blown up here. Bitcoin, ETH, some altcoins as well. Wave 5 of 5 essentially means we're in the final leg to the upside of basically the entire cycle here. So wave 5 of 5 really is the biggest and the strongest. The 3rd wave is big, but if it's in the 5th wave of the 5th wave, that can be even bigger. More on that in future videos. Total market cap, this is altcoins and stablecoins, are doing a similar thing to the total cryptocurrency market cap. However, just above the 50% level, so just above the 900 billion. Good thing it's holding out here at 950. They were the levels that we've been watching now for months, back from February, May, and late May as well. They were the resistance levels. Break above this is going to send more money in the way of the altcoins. Now that was all altcoins and stablecoins. This one is altcoins ETH only, so no stablecoins. Similar pattern, but you're getting a cleaner read on the total market cap. This is now sitting at around 720 billion. Also looks like it's breaking past 50% and those tops, and it put in that higher low. So this is exactly what we've been watching and waiting for. The others dominance also climbing higher. And as we talked about with the overbalance in time of price, that's around 8.1% of the others dominance. This excludes the top 10. So basically everything else except the top 10, it's getting closer now to an overbalance in time of price for this shorter run up. That's the key that we're looking for in the short term. The larger target is this one right here. Oops, this one right there. And that comes out at 10.5%. So we want to see the market overshoot that from here. We want to see that go above 10.5% because that's going to give the market more ammo for the next move. If it doesn't, then this is another rally and fade out. That's what's happened the entire time in this multi-year bear market for alts. And just a note here, this is what everyone's getting excited about these last few days. That's what it is when you zoom out. It's an overall multi-year bear market, 4-year lows, and we're getting excited about those few days there. It's possible that this is the start, but it was also possible that that was the start, that was the start, that was the start, that was the start, that was the start. You get the idea. It's possible they were all the starts. This one seems a little bit stronger with some of the other metrics that I've looked at, but do note that sometimes it takes a few starts to get going. XRP holding out well here, $2.90, tested at $3 a couple of days ago, and ideally it just keeps consolidating before it tempts $3.10. There's the breakout point there, the 50%, the highs at $3.40. So it seems like it's just holding up here to consolidate before it can push a little higher. And the other big runner is SUI, has pushed past 50%, the highs, and now the $4 mark. So it's well and truly in a good place there if it can consolidate these gains and break higher yet again. Now, leading into the end of the cycle, I'll leave this as a big note for you guys. Yeah, of course, we're all excited about making gains. Prices are going up. Hopefully everyone's getting rich. What happens at the peaks? This is coming from those bull market quotes that I looked at the other day, but this one in particular is from Colm O'Shea. Colm O'Shea was a trader for George Soros. I think they know what they were talking about, especially if they almost took down England. Let's see what he has to say about bull markets. These have been going on for years, mind you, years upon years. We've seen this in the stock markets, real estate. It's been going on for years. You know my 18-year cycle. We talked about this a lot. I'll cover more about the economy and stock markets in future videos. After a bull market, this happens in all bull markets, after a bull market that goes on for years, who is managing most of the money? The bears are all unemployed. Yeah, we've seen that with the bears. They're not managing any money at all. You have a few very flexible, smart people. Hopefully that's you and I, but they run relatively small amounts of money, relatively. So they don't matter either. We don't matter. The managers who are relentlessly bullish and who buy more every time the market goes down will be the ones who end up managing most of the money. So you shouldn't expect a big bull market to end in any rational fashion. So we should not expect the bull market to end in a rational fashion. It will be irrational. It has to be irrational. And it says here, every time that the market goes down, in the case of Bitcoin and Michael Saylor, he doesn't need to buy when it's going down. He just needs to buy when people give him money. I got nothing against it. Doing what they do, making billions and billions and billions. He's in 30 billion of profit or whatever it might be now. Let's have a look. He has $70 billion worth. All time, he's up 65%. So that's call it $28 billion. That's his unrealized gains. But they're buying Bitcoin. These are the orange dots all the way up. That's exactly this quote. Just buying all the time. And that's relentlessly bullish. Some of the biggest players in the game. He now owns nearly, or even over 2% of the entire Bitcoin supply. 2% for one company, one man, one company. Absolutely insane. And this one is even more insane. Profit and loss over time. And this might explain the MicroStrategy chart, right? This is the profit and loss over time. They're at 65% because they keep buying, which makes the average price go up. It's right there, $71,300. That's their average price now for BTC. So yeah, they're in a loss through the bear markets. That's normal. That can be very normal, especially holding and going up. But you got to buy more at the bottom and less at the top. That's the only way. Otherwise, once this market turns over a little bit, he's going to go into losses very quickly, very, very quickly. Whereas if you bought a lot at the bottom and less at the top, it takes a long time to go into a loss. So that's pretty much one of the warnings we have leading into the end of the cycle here, the extreme bullishness of the overall market. If you made it this far, let me know in the comment section. Give me a $ with the wings on it, or any sort of $ in the comment section if you made it this far in the video and you don't mind these rants about understanding, at least from my perspective, how the markets work, how things can go up, but then how things can get way out of hand. Meanwhile, the masses are, I guess, frothing over it. I think that's what's going to happen again this time. There's probably more buying to do. I think there's a lot more upside, as I've talked about. But again, just kind of trying to keep a rational head because I want to step away with this with a lot more money than I came here with. I hope you do too. See you guys at the next video. Peace out.